And welcome everybody to the Brokering Racing League. This is the GT3 Sprint Championship. We're here at Algarve, otherwise known as Portimao, for round 5. And it's going to be an interesting one. It's going to be a lot for the drivers to contend with, as this track is very much on the limit, testing their abilities with throttle control as well as tire management. A lot of reports that the lefts are going to be needed to take on their pit stop, their mandatory pit stop. We're 8 minutes left in practice, and then we're going to go to qualifying and open qualifying, and it's still going to be eventful. A lot of it is happening so far in the driver standings for the Pro-Am, and Am, but also the team standings. We have Caffeine Global Motorsports of Steve McAllister and Craig Carroll in the AM class leading the team standing championship over Little Lugnuts of Chris Chitterling and Charles Whedon. Hopefully Charles Whedon can make it with us. Chris Chitterling is actually out there on track, so he's got about 7 minutes and 38 seconds to figure this out. He's beached right now, but he was having some issues with his setup. And still looking to figure enough gas will get it going. Oh, okay, there he goes. Anyway, Charles Wheaton here. His teammate is P23 at the moment. They're sitting second in the team standings with SimCity Racing of Nicholas Mazza and Chris Stewart in third. Chris Stewart is... We have Nicholas Mazza, who is P1 right now, leading the timing sheets in P1. SimCity Racing of Nicholas Mazza with the 142.4. His teammate is in third, who's not on track just yet. But a good haul of points for them, and also they're in the Pro-Am class, both drivers. Same with Chris Chitterling and Charles Whedon, both Pro-Am drivers. In the Pro-Am class, Christopher Chitterling is in P1. Right now he hasn't set a time on the board. Hopefully he can come to grips with his setup. It's a VR issue, apparently. And hopefully he can get back out there. He's got Nicholas Mazza, who's sitting in P2, John Trevecchi in P3. John Trevecchi's 6th right now on the timing sheets. And thank you, Cat Stack, Matt Shack, for the resub on that. As we have 45 drivers that will be joining us in this race. With 5 minutes 38 seconds to go in practice, the real upsets here are the Pro-Am class. I'd say in general, this race has a lot of variability. We have drivers of Matthew Baldwin, who's sitting P12 right now in practice. And then you have drivers that are behind. Jeff Koffold, Austin McGill Jeff is in 13th, Austin is in 14th. Brandon Renfro, also Pro-Am driver, in the 15th spot, with drivers in front of them that are in the AM class. So it's going to be all over the road, I would say. You have Marshall Scary here, who's sitting 18th with a 143.8. And, you know, he's ahead of he's ahead of a lot of the Pro-Am drivers, some of the pro drivers. So the class splits are going to be very different here. We won't see the typical pros all in front, you know, Pro-Ams in the middle and Ams in the back. I think depending on how much people have spent practicing here, it really is just going to show. And it's definitely showing for Marshall Scary here, who is a ways back in P7 in the AM Class Championship. Craig Carroll, who I hope is here today. Actually, I don't even see him. So Craig Carroll is sitting P1 in the AM Class, is not actually registered for this race, so it's definitely going to be his drop week. But another driver who is here, who's in P2, is Chaz Mazuka, who's 31st. He's got a couple of the AM drivers ahead of him, so to maximize his points there, he's definitely going to have to get past some of those drivers. But the Ferrari has been tricky, to say the least. There's only 2 drivers that are actually out there in the Ferrari this go-around. The Lamborghini of Landon Loy, who's sitting in P4, a driver who didn't even think he was going to get into the 143s, is sitting at a 142.8. Only Lamborghini out there on track. Going over to Eddie Layton, who's just behind him in the pit stalls there. That's the Mercedes-AMG GT3. He's the only Mercedes out there. And then it goes over to Jeff Lubitsch, who is part of the Draft Punk Racing Silver team. And he is doing fairly well with this car. Oh, he's not in the silver team. Jeff Lubitsch is... I mean, I might be wrong on that one. It says that silver is Dylan Maroney and Rodrigo Theory. He might just be just a tag-along guy. I know there's a couple of the PAX or Draft Punk Racings that are not part of the team, but just sporting the nice livery there. And as he goes off, he's in the Draft Punk Bronze team. But that doesn't look bronze to me, so I don't know what that's about. We've talked about the Pro-Am class, we've talked about the AM class, and now we're going back over to the Pro class. Eric Neville, who's sitting P2 in the championship with Trey Mistak just ahead of him by a haul of 120-something points. Trey Mistak, who had an unfortunate Nordschleife incident at the end, had kind of dropped his point standings there a little bit. Didn't really maximize out there, but he's not going to be attending Algarve or Daytona, so his final gross points is going to be 1,626 points. Eric Neville is just behind him and is going to maximize the next 2 races here. And I would say his worst outfinish was Watkins again with 266 points pulled in. So depending on how he finishes here in the next one, we could be looking at our Season 12 champion. Right behind him is a sister teammate of Pax Oceani, Ronnie and Clyde, Christopher Daniel, who's sitting in P3. Tyler Sage Anderson in the Dissidents team is sitting in P4, and JD Daniel of the Pax Oceani, Ronnie and Clyde, no relation to Christopher Daniel, also in P5. Peter Flanner in 6, and we'll definitely get to see what's what in the last few races here as Christopher Daniel goes back out. And the difference between the Pax Oceani Potato Pop of Eric Neville and Christopher Daniel is, I wouldn't say significant. You know, you have a driver that has 1,500 points and a driver that has almost 1,400 points. It's about a 125 point difference between them two, and that could swing any which way. Christopher Daniel's going to want to get ahead of Eric Neville here, and he is right now in practice with 15 seconds left to go. But we all know it just matters in the race. And that's only going to pull the competition closer for that P1 finish in the Pro class. As for the Pro AM class, that Christopher Chitterling and Nicholas Mazza battle is going to commence. We really haven't seen Christopher Chitterling's pace as we are going to get to qualifying. Hopefully he can get out there and set something up, because we have not seen it in practice so far. And qualifying is commencing. And Jeff Koffold is the first driver to go out there, followed by JD Daniel, John Javecki, Eric Neville. So we have a Pax Oceani 2, 3, 4 on qualifying. The Pax Oceani, Ronnie and Clyde. and then also John Javecki, who's in the P3 in the Pro AM class, who's the Pax Oceani Silly Gooses. So this is 3 separate sister teammates of these 3 drivers, not with their teammate pair, out there in on their outlap. And then you have Nicholas Mazza, who's just behind, which is a force to be reckoned with. He was the fastest driver in practice. He's got Jacob Simmons right behind in the Bush's Baked Beans team. I have Chris Lambeth, who's in the Pro-Am class, and Jacob Simmons, who's, as you can see in the orange, it's difficult to notice with the orange bean, or like the beans of the brown beans, orange beans, they kind of look orangey. He's in the Pro class, and he's got a bunch of Pro-Am drivers next to him. We're going to go on gyro as we are now at the final corner, going down the straight for Jeff Koffold, who's going to set the first time to lap. And contending with Lagos, he goes in. This is really going to just be a deciding factor on how much you want to attack that left-hander that he goes into. And you can see someone went straight into the wall, because if you get a little too loose on throttle input, then that's when you're really going to see the rear leave itself. What's most impressive here is that we're on board with Jeff Koffold, who's in the Ferrari 296, and arguably the most slidey car that's out there on track in terms of the rear wanting to slip out. Not going to be as aggressive on his inputs. There's only 2 cars out there. You know, Chaz Mizuko, who is an AM class driver who's sitting P2 in the championship, and he was struggling to find out where he should put in his inputs with the throttle management. And so, you know, you have 2 drivers that are only 2 cars of Ferrari out there. They have no references. You know, they're not in a Porsche. Most people are in a Porsche. They're either in a Porsche or a McLaren, and he goes through with a 143.6. This is going to be an extremely good lap for him, by the way. JD Daniel crossing the line, goes to P1, and then John Javecki into P3. Eric Neville, Eric Neville, who goes to P3, and the split's going to start shaping now as Eddie Layton goes across into P6. Brandon Renfro goes through to P5, overtaking Jeff Koffold. Christopher Daniel, Pax Oceani, goes through in P5. Alex Othen, another Pax Oceani driver, crossing the line into P9. Now, where does this put them in contention here? We have Parks De La Cruz, who goes to P6 on that move. Eric Kunzman comes across the line with a 144.1 into P10. So if you can get into the 143s, we're looking at really strong times from those drivers. Getting into the top 10 is going to be that, 143s. Nicholas Mazza, we kind of saw this coming. He did a 142.9. In practice, he did a 142.4. So he could get faster here. And that is the driver to look at. The Pro-Am class driver who arguably will be leading that over Chris Chitterling if we don't see a time on the board for Chris Chitterling. He is in the pit lane right now, probably still trying to contend with his equipment issue, as VR is not responding. I think we could see that there. It's unfortunate. I hope he gets out there. Trevor Bonesteel crossing the line. It goes to P3. And Connor Till. I think Connor Till is new. It's got a 499 on him. I believe he's completely new. Yeah, this driver doesn't have all the stuff on the car as required, but goes into P7. Jacob Simmons crosses the line to take P3. And Landon Lloyd sitting nice in that Lamborghini Martini. That didn't rhyme on purpose. P8 right now. It's looking pretty strong with the 143.5. Austin McGill rounding it out with the 143s now outside of the top 10. Now we got drivers, Marshall Scary, an AM class driver going into 143s, 143.9 into P14. So now P15 onward is the 144 range, and we have 144s going from P15 all the way down into P28 of Tom Smith, who's just out there in the AM class driver. Dave Palmer just ahead, and Marshall Scary just behind. And we'll see the continuing evolution as we have 8 minutes 26 seconds to go. Eric Neville is back out there. He's going to be doing an outlap. So is John Javecki. Connor Till also out there on an outlap. So some of these drivers going for one-shot runs and then putting it into the pits and then going back out there. Parks de la Cruz is out there on an outlap as well. Brandon Renfro is not on an outlap. He's in P12 right now as it stands. What is Nicholas Mazza doing? He's also on an outlap. So all these drivers in the top 10 are on outlaps. They are doing a one-shot and then seeing what they could do here. That is... Did not see any of that in practice, but not a lot of people were practicing their qualifying laps. From what I could gather is Austin McGill goes to P7. Did not pit. He is just continuing to go. And I believe that might have been... Nope. Was not an off-track. Look close. Chris Stewart is out there. Teammate of Nicholas Mazza in SimCity Racing. And what can he do? He has no time on the board. We know he's quick. He was P3 in practice, and now he's P7, now P8. Christopher Daniel crosses the line to take a position away from him right across. Matt Benson crossing the line here to go into 15th with a 143.903. That's his fastest lap so far. Rodrigo Theory crossing the line in the Pax Oceani Draft Punk Racing Silver. Keep seeing those people, and they're purple. The purple is what it got me away from that one. My bad, guys. Michael Charon out there with our last driver on the grid to have a time on the board. We have 45 drivers out here, 6 of which I've still yet to set a time. Tyler Anderson is serving a qualifying ban for this race over the incident that occurred, and that was the ruling. Enough incident points were accumulated for him to have to serve that qualifying ban for this race. So he's not going to go out there. Chris Chitterling with 5 minutes 45 seconds to go. Looks like he's finally going to be able to cross that exit and go out there on track. Let's see what he can do. We'll take a look at that as Nicholas Mazza wraps out a new fastest lap with a 142.5. And doing so just extends his lead even further by, almost 5/10 over JD Daniel. Cooper McCoy, who was sitting in the 20s, now down into P14. Chris Stewart crosses the line to go P6 and is crossed the line, going on an outlap. That is the move for a lot of these drivers. That could bode well for the AM class or pro AM class drivers of SimCity Racing, who are chasing not only dreams of being on the top step there, as Nicholas Mazza is P2 in that category, but they are P3 in the team standings as well, with Chris Chitterling and Charles Whedon being their Pro AM class rivals. It's anyone's gambit on that one. And it's like a blimp version of this. He's still on an outlap. And he's about to be down on the final spot as goes through and he's going to give it his all. This is going to be his first timed lap. And he doesn't have a lot of time. He's going to be able to do one lap, if that, or with that and another, and that's it. So Chris Schitterling's going to have to maximize what he's got going on here. I would say banker lap. Play it safe. Get something on the board. You don't want to start from the back of the pack. This could bode well for the little Lugnuts if Chris Schitterling can get a good spot on the board. He has not set an off track just yet. As Parks de la Cruz goes to P3 with his... And Landon Lloyd, P5 with his lap as well. Man. And if you could hear the practice commentary of some of these drivers not confident in their pace, but looking at that, Landon Lloyd's getting P5 with that. Now down to P6 as Christopher Daniel goes to P2 over JD Daniel. And that is the Pax Oceanic, Ronnie and Clyde. John Javecki overtakes Chris Stewart for P9. And no off tracks as of yet, as we're going to see the first lap, timed lap that Chris Schitterling gets on the board for the Little Lugnuts driver, who is sitting P1 in the Pro-Am class championship. And his rival is P1 in qualifying as he crosses the line with a 144.5. That puts him into P26. He's going to get a go again, and we'll see what he can do from that. As Parks de la Cruz is on a hot lap here. Just a couple of corners to go, and he's going to be through. Ooh, I think that was an off track. No, it wasn't. But Chris Stewart overtaking JD Daniel for that P3. It looks like a big lockout there for SimCity Racing. We're now 1 in 3 as Parks de la Cruz crosses the line. No improvement from him. But Landon Lloyd staying ahead with that P5. Good result for Rodrigo Theory, who goes ahead, and JD Daniel crosses the line, overtakes Christopher Daniel and Chris Stewart to go second. So the lockout so far for Pax Oceanic, Ronnie and Clyde is there with the 1-2 or the 2-3, and then followed by Chris Stewart and Nicholas Mazza, who are P1 and 4. So we have two teams that are really fighting for that top step. They are 3 and 4 in the team standings, and as it shows, they're 1 through 4 in the race or in the qualifying session so far. No one's been able to top these times. Matt B, let's see what he's at. Ibuprofen. Matt Benson is P18 at the moment. And he has got no speed, so he's sitting in the pits. We still got a couple drivers still out there. Elliot Burton is in P19 with a 143.9. And look at that. At the start of this qualifying session that has now ended, just being in the 143s was only going to get you close to the top 10, but then that started to slide down. Now we have drivers at P5 as Jacob Simmons crosses the line to go quicker than Landon Lloyd by just a couple thousandths of a second, and that is going to be it for him. And we'll go back over to Elliot Burton. But That's unfortunate for this driver. And he is going to have to start the race in possibly P19 as long as he can keep it there. Chris Schitterling is still out there on track trying to improve. He's P17. His rival in the Pro-Am Class Championship is in P1. John Javecki, who's also P3 in that Pro-Am class, is P10 at the moment. So the Pro-Am class drivers are showing that just over one lap, they can contend with the Pro class drivers as Chris Schitterling crosses the line. No faster than P17 for him at the moment in time. Everyone else is already done. I think Michael Charon is the last driver. We got 1 minute left to go. And he's in Sector 2 and actually going into Sector 3. There's 5 drivers that have not set a time on the board. One of them is serving a qualifying ban for just one race. Peter Flanner is doing a last from first type of scenario for himself. And that is qualifying ending. We're just going to do a quick promo and then go over the result. Okay. So there we have it. Qualifying has ended. P1 through 15 is right there on the board. Rodrigo Theory is in P16. Followed by Chris Schitterling at 17, Matt Benson 18, Elliot Burton 19, Marshall Scari in 20, Dylan Maroney in 21, Alex Oth in 22, Eric Koonsman 23, Eddie Layton 24, Zach Shelley in 25, Tyler Tier 26, Matthew Baldwin 27, Jeff Lubitch in 28, Charles Reed in 29, Eric Rodriguez in 30, Scott Weber in 31, Lars Thulhis in 32. It's probably not right. Chaz Mizuko 33, Dave Palmer 34, Tom Smith in 35, Brandon Burns in 36, Tyler Kern in 37, Forrest Holland 38, Colin Gary in 39, Michael Charon in 40, followed by the last of the drivers of Peter Flanner in 41, Tyler Anderson 42, Andrew Gorstecki in 43, Blake Patterson in 44, and Steve McAllister in 45, also serving a qualifying ban for this race. That was Steve McAllister for an incident that accumulated enough points for him to be there. And it's going to be gridding still, as we have to wait for a full outlap before we go to racing conditions. There's a few drivers left in the pits. And the blimp is just in a bad spot. Can't see anything with that. Now, there isn't really a good angle here. I guess even more impressive, though, you have Max Oceani on the first and second row with a SimCity Racing on the first and second row as well. Followed by our team champions from last season, the Bush's Baked Beanies of Jacob Simmons on the third row, and Landon Lloyd in that Martini livery on the Lamborghini. And then on the fifth row, another group of Pax Oceani drivers. And they are sister teammates of it, I think. John Javecki is part of the Pax Oceani Silly Gooses with Alex Othen. And Eric Neville is part of the Pax Oceani Potato Pop with Matthew Baldwin, who's in the AM class. Matthew Baldwin finished P27 in the qualifying session. It is going to be a long outlap before this race gets going. 45 minutes. Anything can happen. As I stated before, in practice, it has been mentioned by a lot of the drivers that they are going to be taking lefts. So it's going to play into the strategy. Tires are a factor here. Who's going to try to fuel save as well? A lot of drivers have gone off due to throttle control just not being totally on point, which it has to be. This track has got a lot of that in mind. And we are just exiting Sector 2 into Sector 3. Already in Sector 3, but just a few corners left to go, and we are going to be at racing conditions. And more importantly, Nicholas Mazza has that inside line at the start of this race. We're on board, though, with J.D. Daniel. Might show us a move down the outside. Be very tricky to do so into turn 1, but anything is possible. And safety car is in. And we're off. The race is a go. We have Chris Stewart, Jacob Simmons, and Landon Loy all battling contention. Chris Stewart gets ahead of, or stays ahead of Jacob Simmons for P5. And they are going to go cleanly through as they stay pretty well connected there. It's the drivers ahead of Trevor Bonesteel, who goes up one position off of Parks de la Cruz. And he's going to get swallowed up one spot as we go further back. Oh, no. I'm sorry that's happening. Straight back over to Eric Neville, who's still in the same spot he's been in. No change there. Jeff Koffold up 1. Connor Till up 2. It's a driver we haven't seen before, so it's anybody's bet how this is going to go for him. As Cooper McCoy has been spun off there, and he's going to rejoin and lose a lot of positions. Back over on Matt Benson, who's sitting P18. Hasn't changed positions just yet, but Elliot Burton got 2 off the line and is ahead. So Marshall Scari's also gained a position. So far, no obvious incidents from what I can tell, but Charles Whedon might be our first. So we go over to Trevor Bonesteel, who's over here on Parks de la Cruz. He's going to have to contend for that spot, as Eric Neville is now going to be the one driver who's going to go at him. Gets ahead of Parks de la Cruz so far, but he's going to have to keep this going into the first corner, and they're about side by side, and this is going to be till it finally goes. And they are almost touching. And through goes Jeff Koffold, who gets a move down on the inside line of Parks de la Cruz. Just getting passed by another driver, but it looks like Parks is going to keep this ahead. I mean, when it rains, it pours. And Parks de la Cruz now backing out, down 3 positions at the start of this race. And Jacob Simmons might have this down on Chris Stewart as they're going up into the next section, and he stays ahead of the Porsche driver Chris Stewart. So that's the one position gained out of the top 6 drivers, and it goes to Jacob Simmons first, who looks like he has a decent pace over Chris Stewart at this moment. We'll pull over to Parks de la Cruz. We still got Jeff Koffold in his sights. Eric Neville already improving his time. And look at that. Connor Till going a bit on the defensive there. He's got Austin McGill, who kind of shoved it in there on that corner, but keeps it ahead of Austin McGill for the moment. And nothing too exciting there, Groves, occurred on that start. It was pretty... Oh. That is... We got Elliot Burton. Oh, I don't... That's one of the... Charles Whedon or Chris Chitterling. And he gets shoved aside. Yeah, that's unfortunate. Chris Chitterling has not made up a spot, but I think there goes his first one as he gets a move on Matt Benson, who went wide. But it's not over. Matt Benson getting back on track and staying in a good spot for the next couple of corners, and he is pretty well in hand there as Chris Chitterling leaves the track, and Marshall Scarry right there in the backfield. As Dylan Maroney having to contend with Alex Authen, who's sitting there right there in that rear, and just keeping it ahead. Matt Benson now has the move complete, keeps his car ahead without having to deal with the consequences of him going off track earlier. Is there a penalty for unsportsmanlike behavior? Yeah, I believe there would be if it was deemed unsportsmanlike. One's very difficult to say. Oh, looking over at Marshall Scarry, he's loses it. Oh, and he connects with Matt Benson. And did that end up... Yeah, that really just... he's down 6 positions. Cooper McCoy also down. That is unfortunate. Yeah, that's... What can you say? Connor Till started P12, is still in P12. He's got Austin McGill up 3 positions on him. Parks de la Cruz stemmed the bleeding on people passing him as he's only still down 3 positions. He's got Jeff Koffold ahead of him, and there's been no change in that order so far. So we'll go over to Alex Authen. He's got Chris Chitterling in his sights. Chris Chitterling started P17, hasn't made any spots up just yet. Dylan Maroney up 5, just ahead of him in the Draft Punk Silver team. And these 3, it looks like their pace is almost evenly matched as they go through the braking zone, almost in tandem. There is something in the sporting code on terms of unsportsmanlike conduct, but it'd be more difficult to prove in that over just like malicious intent. Almost every driver in the leagues this far is actually extremely respectful to the fellow driver. There's been a lot of close racing, but ultimately very few incidents get reported. And when they do, it's just to clarify a move and dole out some penalties. 3 cars in tandem. And the drivers behind are also just rolling along. Not too far behind by a second and a half, 1.3 seconds there. It's Eddie Layton in the Mercedes, and that teal Mercedes. And still they're pretty close, but no change in the order. Because we have Chaz Mizuko up 10 positions in P23 at the moment, with Cooper McCoy just in front. Eric Rodriguez up 6 in that blue Porsche. And the one thing they're going to have to look out for is Elliot Burton is out of place at this moment in time. He is a quick driver. Was in an incident. He's now going to have to contend with a couple of the blue AM class drivers. As you can see, the difference on those decal liveries. Blue for AM, orange for Pro, and maybe finding a driver who sticks out a little bit of Chris Chitterling in the Pro AM class, purple decals. All three of them are Pro AM class drivers. The difference being is that this driver of Chris Chitterling is P1 in that Pro AM class standings, and he's got a lot of drivers ahead of him to get to the driver who arguably might win this race, and that is Nicholas Mazza, who's still leading over JD Daniel and Christopher Daniel of the Pax Oceani, Ronnie and Clyde, with Bush's Baked Beanus of Jacob Simmons just behind, about 2.3 seconds to Nicholas Mazza. Doesn't look like that when you're seeing them on screen there, but there is a gap. And Chris Stewart, the teammate of Nicholas Mazza, they're running in 5th with Landon Loy in 6th. The gap is quite formed between them, though. About 3, 4, 10. I'd say 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 tenths difference with all of them. It's a little different here, further in the backfield. Matthew Baldwin getting a move down. It looks like Tyler Curtin got a move down on Matthew Baldwin there. And further back, Scott Weber, the 153, the Pro AM class driver. He's got a couple AM class guys ahead of him. Oh! And thankfully, Brandon Burns did not go into a barrier. He's going to be able to get that back out there on, and yeah, that's a tough one. But Chaz Mizuko on Eric Rodriguez, still no change has happened. But Elliot Burton has gotten past Tyler Anderson, who's up 16 positions, and just behind him is Peter Flanner, who's up 14 positions. Elliot Burton now has one of the fastest drivers on track. One of the arguably the fastest drivers on track behind him of Tyler Anderson. And now Chaz Mizuko is going to have to defend against Elliot Burton, who's going to get by, and that's actually almost a 1-2 as Tyler Anderson looks to take a spot, but can't make that happen right there on that corner exit. Oh! What happened there? Oh, he just dives in the inside and nicks Chaz Mizuko. And there goes through Peter Flanner. Hitting the curbing is more or less. And Tyler Anderson actually has his rear. He's got some bodywork damage as well on that rear. It's kind of something else, you know? Does Austin McGill have the move down here on Connor Till? It looks like he does. That's going to be a spot gained. John Javecki and Brandon Renfro just behind. And out of 45 drivers, we have 3 retirements so far. Michael Charon, who looks to have a move down here on Tyler Tier. Oh, someone's blinking. And No, the move goes away. I guess that's Dave Palmer in that Porsche that was blinking ahead. It looked close, though. Tyler Tier might make a move here. Down the inside line. Not quite. And there's a position lost there for Michael Charon over Scott Webber. Gets ahead, and Steve McAllister going to have a go here at Michael Charon. And he does. Down the inside line, Steve McAllister goes and improves a spot going into 37th for him. Back over Chaz Mizuko, who was involved in that incident. Not too bad for him. He passes Colin Garr. And another position gain for Chaz Mizuko. To be fair, he's in 31st at the moment, but he was battling this driver here of Tyler Anderson and Peter Flanner in P25 and 6. So he's lost a significant amount of positions. But he's just still quite actually ahead of his qualifying spot, so that's something. Parks de la Cruz. Ooh, they're having to contend with Brandon Burns, who's out there and trying to make it easy for these drivers to get past him. The 212 driver, or it's the livery of 212 Racing. We've seen quite a few of the 212 guys. Only one is here with us tonight. And that's Parks de la Cruz, who's been really fair out there on track. And it looks like Chris Chitterling has the move down on Alex Authen as he goes super wide, but hammers it down. And then there's a, what is that? That was Dylan Maroney. They just passed a Draft Punk Racing driver who's not battling out for, what was that? Oh, holy. What in the name? So it wasn't Alex Authen. Good recovery for Dylan Maroney as well, but what driver? Was that Matthew Baldwin? It must have been. No, it wasn't even him. I can't say who that incident was with, but Dylan Maroney may have crashed. Alex Authen. Oh, the mysteries that unfold. This Parks de la Cruz is finally going to have his chance back at the top steps there. Or, top steps, but the steps ahead of him, where he was down 3, now he's down 2. Jeff Koffold gets passed by Parks de la Cruz, and now has to contend with Austin McGill and Colin Till, who are really set on pace, very close to him. One of the big upsets here, here on lap 10, actually goes over to Landon Loy, who was sitting in P5. Ooh, and I think he just gets a little bit of a... Yeah, I don't know what you can say about that. Looks like he spins. Yeah, he just spins that one. And then Tyler Anderson also having a bit of a spin himself. But gets that back out. Pretty easy going. A lot of good fights happening here in the P8 through 13 range. Everyone's still on par, on pace with each other right now. All doing the 144s as Chris Chitterling has gone into the pit lane. And this is going to be a weird shakeup. On lap 11 here of 26, this is where we're going to see no one has gone into the pit just yet until those drivers kind of initiated. 3 drivers all at once initiated that. We'll see if that plays out for the pans out for them. Drivers were reporting that they were going to have to take lefts, and you can see that uneasiness there. And Cooper McCoy gets ahead of Eric Koonsman of the Draft Punk Racing Bronze team. And his sister teammate of Elliot Burton here finally clawing back all of his spots that were after an incident that occurred that dropped him way back. Peter Flanner, a last from first type of scenario for him, is P21 at the moment, up 20 positions. And there's no team orders from sister teammates like this. I think he just kind of knows that Elliot might have the pace and will go around him at some point. We might see that shortly. And he actually just lets him by, it looks like. At least doesn't fight it, but then, yeah, there goes Peter Flanner also ahead. Good on Eric. His fight isn't really there. As Connor Till gets ahead of Austin McGill. So Landon Lloyd is our first driver to go into the pits. He's P34 at the moment. He's got Chris Chitterling, who also went into the pits. Oh, we have a driver that's in the pits. I think he's reset. I think that's a driver that's coming back out. They're not going to really regain all those spots back. Oh, we'll see what occurs. John Javecki, who's lost out a couple positions after the start of this race, got Austin McGill ahead of him in P11. And all the close racing that's kind of happening out there on track is kind of P1 through 13 at the moment, with some notable exceptions. And, you know, they've gone 13 laps. Looks like they're going to 14. Still no hitting from any of these drivers. It's Landon Lloyd in 33. Chris Chitterling in 34, having been the first to make that change. And Cooper McCoy goes to the pit lane, and he was in the teens here. Just swapping back for a second, we have Peter Flanner, who makes a move on his former teammate. And it looked like Elliot Burton just went a little deep into that corner, and there's Peter Flanner capitalizing it on that. That's 3 Draft Punk Racing drivers. Sister teammates in a way, if you would say that. But Peter Flanner is just repping this on his own. Sporting the brand, but not the team this go around. And Brandon Renfro is actually getting closer than he's ever been previously. He's about 8/10 off on the last lap, I believe, and now he's at 6. It's 2/10 gain advantage. It actually was 5-4 at some points. I think he's just trying to find his where he's strongest here. And again, the leaders are still out there on track. no attempts to go in the pit lane just yet. As it's looked like this all race, the Pax Oceani drivers of JD Daniel, Christopher Daniel, Ronnie and Clyde, that is, still sporting 2 and 3. From the start, though, Chris Stewart is a little bit further back. He's got a 4.3 second gap to P4. But he's comfortably in P5 with a 1.4 gap to Trevor Bonesteel, his teammate in P1. And here is a move that might be on Jacob Simmons going side by side with Christopher Daniel as they're going to take this into the next corner. Oh, and he's got the inside line for this uphill spot, and he gets the move down, and he's going to take another position. That's 2 gained for Jacob Simmons of Bush's Baked Beanis. And things have been closer than ever. I'm kind of shocked. Like, even JD Daniels now 1/10 separating from P1. It was a bit of a gap earlier. And there goes Nicholas Mazza into the pit lane as these drivers are going to stay out and go one more lap for the overcut. And look at that. Does Jacob Simmons almost... Oh, no, he doesn't. Yikes! I think that was avoiding action for Christopher Daniel, who possibly would have collided there. It was a close avoiding action. Spicy beans and I'd say Nicholas Mazza is still in the pit lane, and he is dropping down into P 17, 18, possibly 19. We're going to hop back over and see what happens with his race. What happened to the race leader after he's out of the pit lane? As we have the Pax Oceani, Ronnie and Clyde now 1 and 3. Is there a way for them to use their team standings here as team drivers to help each other out, back them up slightly? We've seen it before. It's been penalized once or twice. It's clearly moving in the braking zone. There's been quite a bit here. I'll say. Now, are they going to come into the pit lane? Let's go. And through goes Christopher Daniel to make this a Pax Oceani, Ronnie and Clyde 1-2 across the line. Chris Stewart is still out there, and he's got Trevor Bonesteel just behind. Now, of the two, who are they? Who's got the better pace? Going further back, we have Connor Till up 3 positions. He's got Jeff Koffold in his sights. Park Santa Cruz, who initially had some bouts of trouble on those opening laps, getting swallowed up by 3 drivers, puts himself back into P7 where he qualified. Now, not down any, not up any, but a good result nonetheless for himself. To get back out there and going back over, here's Peter Flanner in P15. Just behind him is Nicholas Mazza. Well, it goes Eric Rodriguez, then Nicholas Mazza. Nicholas Mazza is in P17 with all 16 drivers ahead of him that have not gone in the pits. There's also like 6 drivers behind Nicholas Mazza who have not gone in the pits as well. So we'll see an improvement. But does he get back on that top step after that improvement? It's anyone's game. Briefly, I just wanted to see, he did a 43-1 on lap 14. What are these drivers going to be doing here? They are rounding that final corner, and one goes in, the other stays out. Christopher Daniel is now going to test their pit stop strategy, and JD Daniel staying back out there. Eric Neville staying out. Connor Till staying out. Chris Stewart is gone in the pit lane. Trevor Bonesteel in the pit lane. Parks De La Cruz in. Jeff in. Austin McGill. John Javecki. Brandon Renfro. Alex Othen staying out. This is a driver who has not gone in the pit lane just yet. Eddie Layton going in now. Nicholas Mazza. He's rounding the final corner right now. He's going to jump back through and get some of those positions back. How many? And that's 17 down to 9 with Christopher Daniel ahead of him. And there it goes to show you the pit strategy difference. Christopher Daniel did a 42.0. That 1.1 second really got him. Undercut might be better if front lefts are roasting. Christopher Daniel was P4. Was P3, but then, battled out Jacob Simmons. And even through battling, Nicholas Mazza didn't leave anything on the table there, as Christopher Daniel just got ahead of the race leader. So I suspect that JD Daniel and Jacob Simmons, who are now going in the pit lane, and we're going to get Eric Neville as well, Connor Till, Smart going in, as well as probably Alex Othen, who's got a couple corners to go. I suspect these drivers are actually going to maintain their positions, and we're going to see whether or not this panned out for Christopher Daniel and Nicholas Mazza. Didn't for Nicholas Mazza, did for Christopher Daniel. My bet is on Jacob. So they're rounding the final corners, and we got drivers still on their... Okay, Jacob's down. JD Daniel's down. Who's going to make it to the line there, though? It's going to be JD Daniel. Now Christopher Daniel's crossing the line, and they have them in their sights. But where does it stack out after they're done? And through goes Christopher Daniel on Jacob Simmons. And the driver leading this race is now into P3, Nicholas Mazza. And he's really got to lean on his teammate here, as he's got to get back up to tire temps. And through might go Nicholas Mazza down the inside line. It looks like he has the move done. Is it to Christopher Daniel, or is it to Nicholas Mazza? It still looks like Christopher Daniel keeps it ahead. And this could be a Pax Oceani, Ronnie and Clyde 1-2. On lap 18, they're still battling it out. What a fantastic 1-4 we have going on right now. These drivers are all equal on pace. That pit exit is treacherous. I would agree there, Tito. I would agree. We saw in practice it was treacherous, to say the least. And Eric Neville, who's just gotten passed by Chris Stewart and Trevor Bonesteel, still up 2 positions for this driver, but Chris Stewart mitigating all the issues he was having at the start of this race, which was being only down 1 position to Jacob Simmons, but he's more or less put himself back where he started. He was down 4 seconds to Jacob Simmons, and he's 4.2. So it's not much of an issue for them just yet. And now the real battle is, what are these 2 drivers in 3 and 4 going to do against the Daniels? No relation between the 2. They're sitting 4th in the team championship. This 1-2 could put them a solid haul of points. Takeaway and ooh! Yikes! Great recovery for Jacob Simmons. That's going to put him 2 seconds back on Chris Stewart now. that deficit, he's got to claw back to those drivers. What actually happened there? Oh, I think he might have actually just touched the back rear a little bit. Maybe? Spilled beans. I already... I think spilled beans might be it. He just spilled some beans. Yeah, that was a weird one. Looked like maybe he touched the bumper and that spun his rear. A different type of moving under braking this time. Hey, if you say that again, it's best jokes are in rules of 3. Now, putting this slightly into perspective here, we have JD Daniel who's leading this race. Driver comparison to his teammate. He's actually faster on his best lap by 0.3. So we may just see this go to the end with him not really being challenged by his teammate, as you wouldn't want to, with such an impressive result. Nicholas Mazza leading all practice with one of the fastest times, or with the fastest time on the board, and in qualifying, really putting it into the 142s. His race pace, though, his best time was a 1:43.7, which wasn't quicker than JD Daniels' best time. There's about a 1.5 tenth difference between those two. But it is impressive to see when teammates are almost equal on pace. Christopher Daniel has not left the rear of JD Daniel. As we go over to a sister teammate of John Javecki of the Silly Gooses. The Pax Oceani Silly Gooses. In P11, Jeff Koffeld ahead of him, who's a pro-class driver. And while the splits do have their merit in how they're all separated, this track, Algarve, Portimao, however you want to say it, I say Portimao, it's really shown. Either some drivers didn't get enough practice in, but it doesn't matter where you're situated in the classifications. We've seen some blue AM class drivers in the top 15 fighting out with the Pro-Ams and the pros. And here's another one to kind of sport that theory as Matthew Baldwin of the Pax Oceani. This one, I don't know. Potato Pop. It's got Tyler Kern in his sights. He was faster on his last lap by, I'd say, 0.2 on Tyler Kern, but he hasn't passed him just yet. And we're going to go over to Rodrigo Theory. He's going to pass Chaz Mizuko. What do you like? It's like a timing error. All right, John Javecki. He's one. All right, back over to Rodrigo Theory, who's just going to pull us back a second here. Look at the difference on exit speed. Rodrigo Theory had nailed the corner and made the corner work for himself. Both drivers behind went wide. Gets ahead, but he's only doing a mitigating damage here, as that's Chaz Mizuko overtaking Forrest Holland in that green Porsche for position. And back over to Matthew Baldwin, who's now only 0.2, 0.3 away from Tyler Kern. Charles Whedon finding his way into this fight, only half a second back from these drivers. And Zach Shelley in the Bucky's McLaren fighting Eric Koonsman for P19. And they have widely different lines on the entry and exit of the final corner, and Eric Koonsman gets ahead. It looks just like it's a Pax Oceani show of force, because all three of their teams really actually showed up. And Alex Otten in P26 is Lars Tehus. Who's just ahead, who's gone off, and he goes through. Nothing more clinical than that. Now this is where it would be more of a shakeup. We have drivers, lapped cars that are in the mix, and you know, decent enough. These two are going to be, I don't know if they're going to get by him. Okay, they do. For a second, it looked like the optics that they weren't going to really get by. Now what's more impressive is that Jacob Simmons, who had a 2-second deficit to Nicholas Mazza, has caught right back up to the rear end of that driver. But also impressive is that the Pax Oceani of JD Daniel and Christopher Daniels still keeping it a 1-2. Their times almost even. And right now, Nicholas Mazza, who has a 7/10 difference, isn't really finding it. He is faster on the last lap, but marginally so. And he's also got Jacob Simmons right there on his rear. John Javecki might have the move down on Jeff Koffold, as I guess he got it done a couple corners ago, but he goes ahead to take P10 from Jeff Koffold. Now putting themselves back into 10 and 11, like qualifying. Hopefully they want to keep this race uneventful for the rest. In our 1, 2, 3, and 4, they're putting it all on the table right now as they're still trying to contend. Nicholas Mazza now a little bit closer, but not by much. No, I said that, but that's not true. It's still 7/10, 8/10 now. Three laps left to go. And there's a move. Ooh! Gets awfully close to Christopher Daniel, as well as Jacob Simmons on the inside line of Nicholas Mazza, and it did not... Whoa! What the heck is that in the backfield? Okay. That is, nothing to be alarmed about, I don't think. What's that? Actually, I don't know who that was. I thought it was Michael, but I'm wrong. Parks de la Cruz has Eric Neville ahead of him, and also Michael Charn is lap traffic here for these drivers, and it's going to be maybe a factor for how they're going to get by. And he's going to let one by. Hopefully the others are going to kind of scream right by, and he does. They very well done for Michael Charon. Alex Otten on Charles Whedon down in the braking zone. He's not going to be able to make it happen there. Matthew Baldwin in P25 following up his sister teammate. I think quite possibly Eric Neville was the biggest successor there on Connor Till, who's about an 8/10, 9/10 difference to Eric Neville. They were much closer before they faced that lap traffic, so might be a benefit for him for sure. Off of that blue flag. With 2 laps to go, this race could be wrapped up for the Pax Oceani, Ronnie and Clyde. Nicholas Mazza, while leading the first stint of this race in P3, hasn't had much of a go at these drivers. And we're going to go back over to Steve McAllister, who's got Dave Palmer in his sights down into turn 1. He goes through and makes a move to take P32 from Dave Palmer. Tom Smith in the background in that green Porsche in P42. Make no mistake, Steve McAllister is part of the Captain Global Motorsports AM class leading champions in the team standings as it is. It's a good on result for him, as we're going to have the 1 lap to go. We'll hop over and show the rest of this race, which is down to this, the final lap. If there's ever a time to make something happen, it's right now. And I think that might have been a move down in the Torre VIP. That really harsh left-hander. They're not going to have anything down just yet. And with just 3 corners to go, this could go to the Pax Oceani, Ronnie and Clyde team, as they will not hit that lap traffic before the end of this race. And nothing Jacob Simmons or Nicholas Mazza can do, as they are about to finish this race in what is an impressive pit strategy for both drivers of the Pax Oceani, Ronnie and Clyde. They are going to come home to win the 1-2 finish. Nicholas Mazza and Christopher Daniel into 2, Nicholas Mazza into 3, Jacob Simmons into 4, Chris Stewart finishes ahead of Trevor Bonesteel in 5, Trevor Bonesteel in 6, Connor Till ahead of Eric Neville in 7, Eric Neville in 8, Parks de la Cruz finishes in 9th, John Javecki in 10th. That is a lot of Pax Oceani drivers. I think that was 4. In the top 10 finishing, as Jeff Koffold finishes in 11th, Landon Loy in 12th. Great result after an incident that happened for him. Chris Chitterling in 13. Mitigating all that issues. He is the Pro AM class driver there. Nice. Peter Flanner, a last to 14th for him. And Elliot Burton into P15. Dylan Maroney into 16. Eddie Layton into 17. Eric Rodriguez into 18. Eric Koonsman on this final section here down the straight, he's going to finish in the 19th. Eric Shelley into 20th. Cooper McCoy to 21. Tyler Kern over Alex Authen. They were battling all race, and this is going to go to Tyler Kern. Alex Authen into 23rd. Charles Whedon 24. Matthew Baldwin 25. Lars Hoos into 26. Scott Weber into 27. Rodrigo Theory into 28. Chaz Mizuko 29. Forrest Holland in 30, Matt Benson 31, Steve McAllister into 32 with Tom Smith in 41, just ahead. Dave Palmer into 33, Austin McGill 34, Jeff Lubitsch in 35. Brandon Burns has crossed the line into 39, Michael Sharon in 36, Colin Garr in 37, Michael Scari in 38, Brandon Renfro 40, Tom Smith in 41, Tyler Tier 42, Tyler Anderson 43, Andrew Korsecki 44, and Blake Patterson into 45. You know, it's not often I do this, but I do it now because what a result for the Pax Oceani, Ronnie and Clyde of JD Daniel and Christopher Daniel, no relation. I mean, fantastic result, guys. That must have felt really well, or nerve wracking. I'll let one of you go first. I mean, fantastic result. What a pit stop strategy. Did you work that in to have one go first, then the next?
Yeah, we were talking about it. We didn't want to mess each other up on the pit entry, so we decided to stagger it by a lap. Um, but yeah, shout out to all the PAX Oceania guys. We had a lot of practice sessions this week with the holiday weekend, and everybody just did a phenomenal job. Eric, John, Alex, Matt, and Chris, just the whole group did an awesome job. Wasn't expecting that, especially with Nicholas's pace. The Porsches just seemed really strong, but yeah, that was something.
I mean, it was fantastic. And, I think in total you had four drivers finishing in the top 10, which is, I mean, not only locking out that 1-2, but I mean, it's got to feel great knowing your sister teammates are also just, just as capable as you two are. I mean, what a fantastic result. Yeah, I saw that, Nicholas Mazza kind of had you guys' number on that first stint, but what it really affected you guys is putting in that undercut. Also, were you worried at all towards that end there? I mean, they weren't like, I would say, like, neither Jacob Simmons or Nicholas Mazur was able to like catch back up with you guys. They were always a little bit off, but were you still focused on that was still a possibility?
Uh,
Yeah, I, I,
yeah,
I think so. I think JD did a good job at race pace management and just kind of hung in there with the draft. But yeah, he kept back. I think he could have went off and left me. He kept backing up, so I could have a little bit of a draft buddy because I ended up under fueling a little bit. So I needed that little tow. So kudos to you, man. Appreciate the teamwork.
yeah, man. Well, really appreciate your help with the setup and everything. You killed it. Just super thankful to be racing with this group of guys. Like they're just really awesome to drive with and hang out with. And shout out to Sim Motion and the Javecki agency for sponsoring the league. Just having a blast out here.
Absolutely. I mean, what a fantastic result, not only for that, but I mean, I said this in practice, but you guys, there's three teams plus a couple extra, recruits that aren't actually on the teams but sporting the livery. You guys are one of the cleanest groups that has come in and joined and just raced, dialed in, and been, bumper to bumper without any incident, which is, a fantastic thing to see. Is not only that you guys are fast, but extremely respectful.
Yeah, that's one of the great things about racing in leagues like this one. People race hard but fair, and you race people the way you want to be raced, and it really shows in the quality of the league to have battles with Jacob and Nicholas, just super clean all the way, hard fought, and all wins feel earned. Nothing's given or feels insincere. It's all genuine, real racing, and it just makes it a blast in this crazy hobby of ours.
Absolutely. And not only to say that, but JD Daniel, you're fifth in the championship. Christopher Daniel, you're third in the championship. Eric Neville, who finished behind you guys in eighth, but he's second in the championship with the P1 driver opting to not finish the last two races. It looks like it's going to come down to a Pax Oceani, possibly 1-2-3. Tyler Anderson also was dropped back into P40 43. So big haul of points for all three of you guys. I think we're going to see a 1-2-3, but it's now going to come down to whether or not who wants it more. I think Eric Neville is going to try to kind of have your number on that final Daytona spot. Who do you have in that top spot? Are you guys going to battle each other out there, or are you going to try to be as respectful as you can?
I think we'll
Uh,
be respectful. I think you'll see more of the same, really. But that's
Okay.
just my take on it. JD, what do you say?
Yeah, I mean, we'll just race the way we always race. Like if somebody makes a good clean move, then that's just how it's gonna be. No team orders or anything. Just I don't know who's gonna end up on top, but I know nothing in this league is given. I've got to earn everything in this league. That's the same goes for my teammates. They don't give me anything. They don't give anybody anything. It's all earned on the track. So we'll see what happens. But it's it's definitely been a great season for us.
Absolutely. I can't wait to see what you guys do between the 1, 2, 3. I hope it's interesting. It looks like you guys are going to push up on the team championship as well. That'd be cool to see if you end up getting that 1, 2 spot plus the team standings championship. But who's to tell? Who's to say on that one? Daytona's next. I hope you guys do well there. I mean, what a fantastic race all around. I mean, you guys really had a lot of support in the chat, by the way. I know Groves, I forget his first name, but he was there shouting you out the entire time.
Thanks, Jordan. Appreciate you, bud.
Yeah, appreciate it, Jordan.
All right. Thanks, guys, and have a good night.
Thanks, Jason,
Thanks,
for all you
thanks
do,
for the
man.
broadcast as always, man. You
Yep.
you kill it.
Thank you.
Yep, you did a great job. Awesome, man. See you next week.
See ya. Eric Rodriguez. Okay. Hey, Eric.
Well, hello, my friend.
So it looks like you I think won something here.
It looks that way. I was a little surprised, and then I believe that's it. I was just waiting for the official word, but yeah, man, it's a great race.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Sometimes I have trouble on these ones trying to find out who's who, but yeah. So what class was that in?
I am still amateur, so kind of working my way up to pro-am. So hopefully by next season we'll be at pro-am fighting for some wins there.
Eric Rodriguez. Okay, so you were battling with Eddie Layton that entire time. It looks like yeah, you got over Eric Koonsman there. I think Eric Koonsman is actually in the. Sorry, I'm trying to look through and see who's who. Yeah, no, you got. It looks like yeah, you beat out Eric Koonsman. So in the Battle of the Erics, you're winning right there. What I saw on track is you were really close. You had Eddie Layton in your sights. You also had a couple of fast guys come by you. Was that at all at some point a little uncertain for yourself?
No, I tried to keep a good eye on what was going on around me as far as the race wise, and there's no point in me racing the pros. So whenever I get a good opportunity to let those guys by, that's just kind of my go-to move is let the pros by so I can go ahead and finish my battle from the race I'm running.
Okay, yeah, I totally get it. And then there's also Colin. Is there Colin Gar was out there as well? I'm not. It's a little confusing on who Eddie Layton pulled out some people, but I think yeah, you ended up winning that one. What a fantastic result for yourself. Does that even put you your P8? You had Eric Koonsman in your sights. He's behind you, so that's going to give you a little bit more room. You had Brandon Burns also in that mix. Are you looking for the final result at Daytona to be really strong for yourself? Do you have experience there, and do you feel like you're going to be fast? And also, is your teammate okay? I think Andrew Korstecki finished almost last. I think 44th there.
Yeah, he didn't run tonight. He wasn't out for the best pace. He didn't feel like. But as far as Daytona, it's always a good track. It's always a nice, fun race here in the league at Daytona. It's just going to be a matter of traffic management. I have some experience, but anything can happen at Daytona. So just try to have a good race and stay out of trouble.
Gotcha. I can't wait to see what you do. What a fantastic result. Any win is always a good win, especially when you had, the likes of Chaz Music around you and you were able to keep that in a better spot.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much. It's definitely a challenge in this league and some really good guys to race here, and it's just been a pleasure.
Absolutely. I can't wait to see what happens next one. And congratulations again, Eric.
Thank you, my friend.
All right. And with that, Jordan, thanks for being here. It's Matt Shack as well. And I think Trey Mistack as well. I think you were one of the two of you. I think both of you were here, but the team Shake Stack, as I always remember. Thanks everyone else that was joined here. Appreciate you guys being here till the end. Can't wait to see you guys next week, as well as our newly launched Broken Wing Racing Le Mans series with the GT3s and the LMP2 class. We will be doing a test or not a test, but a pre-season race, which I will be commentating on with a co-commentator. These are going to be an endurance racing, 2 or 3 driver swaps. It's going to be so far we have 44 teams, which means we have 4 different classifications of drivers, a pro-am for each specification class, and a lot of drivers or a lot of teams in each one. So it's going to be a very, very cool endurance league that we were going to be streaming for you. The preseason and first race, those will be on Tuesdays and about the same time as this is going on. So look out for the next one. Daytona is next, and that'll be next week. Stay tuned. And thanks for joining. Have a good evening.